When I worked at Best Buy, my favorite bosses were always the ones who were completely unafraid to jump in and do the work. It might have been things like when we got busy. I think it could be easy when we got busy to hop on the intercom and call for more cashiers to come to the front. But my favorite bosses, the best bosses, they might eventually get to that point. But my favorite bosses, the first thing they're going to do is hop on a register themselves to help. I remember I had bosses who, when I worked in inventory, I would see our inventory manager be on the truck and help us unload. And maybe not for the full time, maybe not for the whole time, but at least for part of the time, like when the truck would arrive, like they would join in and do the work. And you could always tell when the person who was joining in and doing the work, when they were doing it for the attention versus they were doing it because they genuinely wanted to help, because they genuinely cared about setting that example. And I think that if we were to think about all kinds of different examples from our own lives, we probably have lots of stories like that, where the people who maybe we most identify with are those who literally set the example for us, who don't just tell us what to do or tell us what we should do, but they jump in and they do the work themselves, to be an example, to be a demonstration. I think in John chapter 13, when Jesus washes his disciples' feet, like we talked about this on Sunday, he very easily could have said, and this is the text we're going to read. Let me see here, verses 14 to 15. Jesus has just washed their feet, and he says, and since I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's feet. I've given you example to follow. Do as I've done to you. Earlier, when we talked about the text over the past few days from the Gospel of Mark, Jesus said, that he did not come to be served, but to serve. He talks about how the leaders of this world like to lord their authority over the people who are under them. It would be very easy for it would have been very easy for the manager at Best Buy to just call someone else to come in around the register, or it would have been very easy for the manager at Best Buy to call someone else to help unload the truck. But this is not the example that Jesus sets for us. And I think our best examples of a leader is the person who does the work himself or herself and demonstrates and as an example to those around them. I want to just encourage you to be that example. This is something we talked about quite a bit last night in our Tuesday night small group of, like, we are an example and we should not be too good to do things. We should not walk into the church on Sunday. And I talked about, it can be easy to walk into a church and see the towel and the basin and the water, and not literally, but it can be easy to walk into a church and see all of the things that need to be done and just walk on by, just like the disciples did the night of the Last Supper. They walked right by that towel, they walked right by the basin, they walked right by the water, and they just thought, well, that's someone else's job. They just thought someone else should do that for me. And as the church, as Christians, we don't have the luxury just to walk by the work that needs to be done. Our job is to join in the work. Our job is to do the work. Our job is to serve. Our job is to set the example. And no one is above that work. No one is above that work. We try hard to set that example here at WestWay Christian Church with our pastors and elders in our body, that we are not above work. And I would encourage you to be a person who really spends some time evaluating, like, do I feel like I'm too good for the work? Do I feel like I'm better than Jesus? Because that's what he's talking about here. You are not better than me. You call me teacher and Lord, and you're right, because that's what I am. Slaves are not greater than their masters, nor is the messenger more important than the one who sends the message. We are not more important than Jesus, and we are to serve like Jesus. We are to have the mindset of Jesus, and we are to follow the actions and the example of Jesus. That's my hope and my prayer for you, is that you will follow the action. Excuse me. Excuse me. That you will follow the actions and the example of Jesus. I love you, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.